It's the 2nd of March and Formula 1 is back in Bahrain for the 2024 season, which would prove to be one of the most competitive Formula 1 seasons in years. The world champions are Max Verstappen and Red Bull, looking to extend their run of dominance and win their 4th world championship in a row. Lewis Hamilton is entering his final year at Mercedes after making a shock move to Ferrari. And elsewhere, there are drivers like Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, all looking to dethrone Max Verstappen and win their first Formula 1 World Championship. Heading into 2024, Formula 1 was set for a fantastic season, with a number of championship contenders from a variety of different teams. But although that was the case at the season opener in Bahrain, it was the reigning champion Max Verstappen who started his campaign off with a bang.
And it's lights out and away we go! Max Verstappen wins the Bahrain Grand Prix!
In the very first race of the season, Max Verstappen would pick up exactly where he left off, putting in a dominant performance which saw the Dutchman take victory once again.
Simply lovely.
In qualifying, the reigning champ would do what he does best, putting in a perfect lap to take pole position for the race. And after an amazing start on lap 1, Verstappen would hold his nerve, dominating the rest of the grid to win the first race of the season. This was Max Verstappen's 8th win in a row, which saw himself and Red Bull jump to the top of the World Championship standings. But although the Dutchman would dominate once again at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, it was the scarlet-coloured Ferraris who were making all of the headlines. This is Carlos Sainz, Ferrari's driver from Spain, who just found out he was getting replaced by Lewis Hamilton next year. So, as you guys can imagine, Carlos was determined to prove himself in 2024 and wouldn't let anything get in his way.
Commiserations to Carlos Sainz, but it was announced today that he is suffering from appendicitis.
Enter Ollie Bearman. This is Ollie Bearman, Ferrari's 18-year-old reserve driver, who stepped in for Carlos Sainz in Jeddah and became the team's youngest ever Formula 1 driver. Despite being inexperienced, Bearman coped with the pressure brilliantly, putting in a fantastic drive in his first Grand Prix, which saw him finish in a respectable 7th place. This, unsurprisingly, caught the attention of the entire Formula 1 paddock, which allowed Bearman to pick up a seat at Haas for the 2025 season. But despite his performance in Jeddah, it would be Carlos Sainz back in the car for the Australian Grand Prix, and when he returned, he did so with a vengeance.
Carlos Sainz, who wins the Australian Grand Prix.
At the 2024 Australian Grand Prix, Carlos Sainz would produce an absolutely stunning drive, which shocked the paddock and saw the Spaniard break Max Verstappen's 9-race win streak. Despite having appendicitis, Sainz looked remarkably comfortable, putting in a phenomenal lap on Saturday to take 2nd place for the Grand Prix. And after Max Verstappen suffered a brake failure on lap 3, the Spaniard would capitalise on the opportunity, winning in spectacular fashion ahead of teammate Charles Leclerc. This was Ferrari's first win of the season, which saw them close up to Red Bull in the World Championship standings. And after a 3rd place finish at the Japanese Grand Prix, Carlos Sainz had scored a podium at every single race going into the 2024 Chinese Grand Prix, which saw another bright star take centre stage, putting in one of the greatest performances of all time. Lance Stroll. They say there are 3 staples in life: death, taxes, and Lance Stroll being a moron, and 2024 proved absolutely no different whatsoever. Once again, Lance proved himself to be a reliable part of the Formula 1 paddock. But unfortunately for Aston Martin fans, Stroll was reliably terrible instead of reliably getting good results on track. He would crash into others, refuse to take any accountability whatsoever, and give us some of the most insightful interviews we've ever seen before.
What is not clicking for you behind the wheel at the moment?
I don't know.
All of these incidents led to a lot of debate on social media, with many believing that Lance should lose his seat on the Formula 1 grid. But despite all that chaos, the next race in Miami somehow proved even more eventful, after one of Formula 1's most popular drivers achieved his first ever win in the sport.
It's a landmark day for Lando. Lando Norris wins for the first time in Formula 1. It's victory in Miami for Norris and McLaren.
After 5 years in Formula 1, Lando Norris would finally achieve his goal, taking victory at the Miami Grand Prix to win the first race of his Formula 1 career. After starting the race in 5th, Norris would stay out on the medium tyres, hoping for a safety car which would put him in the race lead. And when Sargeant and Magnussen came together, Lando had found his lucky break, going on to win the Grand Prix by a remarkable 7.6 seconds. This was Lando Norris's first win in the sport, which went completely viral on Formula 1 social media. And on the top step of the podium, Lando would stand alongside Max Verstappen and the Monegasque hero Charles Leclerc, who 2 races later would win his home Grand Prix in style.
In 2017, Charles Leclerc lost his father, and in his final days, he told his father a white lie, that he'd made it to Formula 1, that he'd signed the contract. It wasn't true then, but his driving has made it true now, and look what he's done with the opportunity.
Again, and start the season off with celebrations for Ferrari. Charles Leclerc wins the Bahrain Grand Prix. Mercedes threw everything at him today. Charles Leclerc has coped brilliantly. He won in Spa, he wins in Monza.
The grandstands he saw built as a kid growing up now rise for him, and for the first time in 93 years, this fabled race is won by one of their own. Charles Leclerc wins the Monaco Grand Prix.
We won it! Finally!
It's mission accomplished, destiny fulfilled. You've got that one forever.
The 2024 Monaco Grand Prix saw a dream come true for Charles Leclerc after winning his home race for the first time in his Formula 1 career. In qualifying, the Monegasque would put in an unbelievable lap to take pole position, ahead of the McLaren of Oscar Piastri, who lined up in 2nd place. And despite failing to convert pole on a number of different occasions, Leclerc would hold his nerve to win by 7.1 seconds. This was a win that united the entire Formula 1 community, with every fan base happy to see Charles Leclerc win his home race. And after 7 years of torment, Leclerc had finally done it, and celebrated by jumping into the famous Monaco harbour. What happens next? Max Verstappen wins the next 2 races in style, dominating the rest of the grid before arriving at the Red Bull Ring for the Austrian Grand Prix. Once again in qualifying, it was Max Verstappen on pole, with Lando Norris in 2nd after a close battle on Saturday. The race gets underway and the two charge off into the distance, going wheel to wheel on a number of occasions when fighting for the lead. This fight between the 2 championship contenders was extremely exciting for Formula 1 fans, because with Max Verstappen in front and Lando Norris behind on quicker tyres, the two were about to give us some clean and fair racing action.
Oh, they made contact! He's got a puncher! He's damaged his front wing!
So yeah, instead of giving us clean and fair racing, Max and Lando would finish off the podium after a catastrophic incident. During the last phase of the race, Lando would swap onto the medium tyre, which gave him a massive pace advantage on the Red Bull of Max Verstappen. And after failing to get past the Dutchman on a number of different occasions, the two would make contact, which saw Norris DNF. This DNF was a huge blow to McLaren and Lando Norris, who slipped further behind Max Verstappen in the World Championship standings. And after 71 laps of racing action, we'd eventually get an unpredictable podium, with George Russell, Oscar Piastri and Carlos Sainz occupying the top 3 spots. The Austrian Grand Prix was a race of complete and utter chaos, but the next race in Silverstone was a spectacle like no other.
Verstappen far enough back, he's going to make the lunge down the inside. Hamilton sees him coming. It's a late lunge by Verstappen, who takes the lead of the race.
This has been manipulated, man.
Max Verstappen, for the first time ever, is champion of the world.
Oh, I'm just speechless, Lewis. Absolutely speechless.
Welcome everybody to Silverstone on this special Sunday for a British Grand Prix. He is the man who raises the bar, who raises the stats, who takes things to stratospheric levels.
Don't call it a comeback. He's been here for years.
Lewis Hamilton wins the British Grand Prix.
Get in there, Lewis! You're the man! You're the man!
At the British Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton would take victory for Mercedes after over 900 days without a race win. Mercedes locked out the front row and led comfortably until lap 20, when both McLaren drivers came charging past in wet conditions. But although many believed that it was Norris who was going to win the race, an excellent strategy by Mercedes saw Hamilton retake the top spot. The 2024 British Grand Prix was an absolutely chaotic race, which saw 3 different teams in contention for the win. But despite this, the Hungarian Grand Prix proved even more eventful after a number of controversies and an Australian driver's first ever win in the sport.
Oscar Piastri wins for the first time in Formula One.
Despite the chaos of Silverstone, the Hungarian Grand Prix proved even more interesting due to the absolute meltdown that occurred at McLaren. Although it was Oscar Piastri who was in the lead, the team favoured Lando Norris with the strategy, allowing the British driver to take the lead on lap 50 of the race. But when they realised that this was an unfair call, they controversially swapped the positions, allowing Piastri to take the checkered flag first and be victorious in the race. This was Oscar Piastri's first win in the sport, which unfortunately took place under a controversial strategy call. And after another crazy race in Spa and a 4-week summer break, it was back to racing at the 2024 Dutch Grand Prix, which saw us say goodbye to one of Formula One's brightest stars, being replaced for the next race at the Italian Grand Prix. ...2024 was not only a year of intense racing on track, but also a year of loss, with both Logan, Sargeant and Daniel Ricciardo being replaced mid-season. Despite his heroic years at Red Bull, Ricciardo was unable to regain his form, and was replaced by Liam Lawson in a surprise mid-season change. And over at Williams, Logan Sargeant was replaced by Argentine Franco Colapinto, which saw the end to his 1.5 years in the sport. It goes without saying that despite the losses of Ricciardo and Sargeant, their replacements did a fantastic job and deserved their spot in Formula One, with Franco Colapinto immediately making his mark at the Italian Grand Prix, which saw 6 overtakes from the Argentine, another botched McLaren strategy, and the return of Ferrari to the top step of the Monza podium.
Charles Leclerc is the winner of the Italian Grand Prix.
At the Italian Grand Prix, Ferrari were back where they belong, winning in spectacular fashion in front of an adoring home crowd. In qualifying, Charles Leclerc would put his Ferrari in 4th, with McLaren once again locking out the front row of the grid. And despite Oscar Piastri pulling off an incredible overtake on lap 1, Leclerc would win the race with a fantastic one-stop strategy. This was Ferrari's first home win in years, which saw them close up to McLaren in the constructors' standings. But despite losing out in Monza, McLaren would bounce back in Azerbaijan, with Oscar Piastri producing the best drive of his career. After narrowly missing out in Monza, Oscar Piastri produced a stunning drive in Azerbaijan, winning a fantastic race ahead of the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. The two went toe-to-toe throughout the race, drifting around corners and giving us some incredible action, including Oscar Piastri's unbelievable dive bomb on lap 20 of the race.
How brave is he feeling on the brakes? It's a dive bomb move! It's a change of lead!
But that wasn't all, because in the dying laps of the race, there was also a dramatic crash between Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez.
We're heading into the wall! At high speed, Sainz and Perez make collision!
This was a massive setback for Red Bull, who were slipping further away from McLaren in the World Championship standings, until Formula One arrived at the Brazilian Grand Prix, which saw intense rain, a handful of crashes, and one of the greatest performances in Formula One history.
Ah, yes. Well, looky here, what do we have? Another pretty thing ready for me to grab. But little does she know that I'm a wolf in sheep's clothing, 'cause at the end of the night, it is her I'll be holding. I love you so, hey, that's what you'll say. You'll tell me, baby, please don't go away. But when I play, I never stay. So every girl that I meet, yeah, this is what I say. Run, run away, baby. Before I put my spell on you. You better get away, darling. 'Cause everything you heard is true. Your poor little heart will end up alone. 'Cause Lord knows I'm a rolling stone.
Max Verstappen wins the Sao Paulo Grand Prix.
At the 2024 Brazilian Grand Prix, Max Verstappen would put in an unbelievable performance, winning the race after starting 17th on the grid. In qualifying, the Dutchman would miss out on Q3, after Lance Stroll crashed and brought out the red flag. But despite starting at the back, Verstappen would claw his way through the field, making overtake after overtake to win an absolutely chaotic race. The Brazilian Grand Prix was one of the best races of the season, which saw an outstanding performance by the reigning champion Max Verstappen, one which turned the tables on the championship battle, extended his lead over Lando Norris, and will go down as one of the greatest drives in Formula 1 history. But hey, maybe he was just lucky, right?
Max Verstappen, you are a four-time world champion. That is a phenomenal achievement.
Oh my god, man, what a season. 4 times.
At the Las Vegas Grand Prix, Max Verstappen would secure his 4th world title, to put his name among the greats of Formula 1. The Dutchman was absolutely outstanding the whole season, consistently outperforming his car and producing some of the best performances of his entire career.
For the 60th time in Formula 1, Max Verstappen takes the win.
2024 was a defining year for Max Verstappen, which saw him secure the driver's title with 2 races to go. And when Formula 1 arrived in Abu Dhabi, there was only the constructor's title to play for, which saw a historic battle take place between Ferrari and McLaren.
Charles Leclerc wins the US Grand Prix. For the 2nd time in Formula 1, Lando Norris wins.
The two constructors went toe-to-toe throughout the year, trading wins and battling each other during one of the most competitive seasons in Formula 1 history.
Carlos Sainz wins the Mexico City Grand Prix.
And after a season-long fight, the battle was eventually won by McLaren after some excellent performances on track, including Oscar Piastri's 2 wins throughout the year, and an outstanding drive by Lando Norris in the season finale, which saw him take victory in the race.
McLaren are world champions of 2024.
2024 was an absolutely incredible season, which saw 7 different race winners and the first McLaren championship since 2008. But at the end of it all, it was the reigning champion Max Verstappen who would conquer the competition and put his name among the greatest drivers in Formula 1 history.